Hello and welcome to roster construction season here on the Up the Coast podcast. As always, I am your host Tyler, and I am joined today by the great Sam Federman. You know him from Mid Major Madness. You know him from Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. You know him from like eight other places that he can list if he wants to. There's that one Syracuse site he writes for. He is Sam Federman.
Tyler, thank you for the illustrious intro. You are obviously the great Tyler Cronin as well. I'd be remiss not to mention that. But yeah, I'm ready to talk about the ACC, and I love that you call it roster construction season rather than portal season or free agency season, because championships aren't won by throwing the most money around. It's not won by who enters and exits the transfer portal. I mean, it theoretically is. It's won by who creates the best roster. And I think that's a really, really good way of putting it. I love the term roster construction season. I think I'm going to use that.
Feel free, my friend. But let's just look at Louisville last offseason. They did a great job of talent acquisition. They did not do a good job of roster construction. And we see
I
how
don't
that
even
ended.
I don't even think they did a poor job of roster construction. I think they like tried to build to a certain identity and just realized that like going that extreme in that direction just wouldn't work in a high major conference.
Yeah, they just didn't have any decent centers. That's where I think we criticized them then and can still criticize them now. But
I don't even think Frew was like that bad. I think he's going to be really good at Marquette with Shaka. I just think it's more the idea that they leaned too heavily into one, like putting all their eggs in one basket. And I think for Pat Kelsey, like, go ahead, like, experiment with your things. You're going to have a lot of money for a lot of years. You have the proof of concept as, like, you are clearly going to win basketball games. You're going to make NCAA tournaments. So like figure out if you can win with doing what you want to do. And if you can't, then change it up a little bit. And I think their roster this year is definitely a lot different than it was last year. We're not done yet, but they have five players. They have five players plus London Johnson. So they have five players.
they have five very expensive players, but it does seem like they probably still have a couple more bucks for the bench there. So
They need to. They need to because that bench, because the way that because one thing I do think Pat Kelsey will continue to do is play fast. And in order to play fast, you need a bench. I guess 2 years ago he did not have much of a bench and he still played fast.
he also had a couple of just crazy guys like Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards, who, if Kelsey asked them to play 50 minutes a game, I think they both would have done it. So,
Yeah, like they need another big. Like Flory's really really good, but like Flory's the best big maybe in the portal. I think he is the best big in the portal. I think he's the best player in the portal. Matthew Winnick says he's the best transfer of all time. He might be. He's not giving you more than 31 minutes. What are you going to do with the other 9 minutes? Alvaro Figueres at the five in the ACC?
no.
And what are
They-
you going to do with the minutes that he doesn't play and the minutes that Florida doesn't leave? They need bigs, and bigs are expensive. Like they can't go into the season with just Florian Alvaro in the front court. Like they need to fix like that's a really, really, really good front court. But like for all intents and purposes, like they still need three more guys on this roster to complete it.
yeah, and that's why we're not going to go too much into Louisville today because such a fascinating roster. But I think last year taught us that to not get overexcited about the incomplete product for the Cardinals. And obviously, we're in that same spot with a lot of these teams, but you could start to see some different visions for different teams right now. Whereas Louisville, it's basically there's these awesome guys, they fit together. We don't know what the bench is going to look like at all. But here, 2 weeks out from the portal having opened, we've gotten each ACC team has at least three or four likely starters, couple bench pieces. Sam, who has been the big offseason winner in the ACC in your mind here way too early these first 2 weeks?
It's Boston College. It really is. Like Miami has improved its stock, I think. Um, I think like Um, there's potential for like another good season at Florida State. I think that There's a bunch of teams that have built some decent stuff, but like Boston College, if you go to like March 1st to now, who has improved its stock the most in the entirety of maybe all of high major basketball, it's Boston College. This was a program that looked like it. I mean, it hasn't had anything to cheer for the last 15 plus years. Um, Earl Grant was a pretty uninspiring hire at the time. He'd just been like fine at Charleston. Like making one tournament in 7 years there is like you could do better than that. As we've seen, Pat Kelsey did better than that. Um, like he'd finished his last two seasons at Charleston were 170 and 232. And like it just didn't work at Boston College. And like the hire before that, Jim Christian, like had already failed at TCU in the Mountain West and was obviously really good in the MAC, but and then obviously before that, Steve Donahue didn't work out there. So three straight bad coaching hires. I don't think anybody in college basketball thinks Luke Murray isn't a slam dunk hire. I think everyone in the sport, everyone that watches college basketball, everyone that follows college basketball knows that Luke Murray was the architect behind UConn's systemic shift in their offense um, between like the early Hurley years where they were really running like it was brutal. Like the offenses were bad. They weren't like bad in terms of like their results. They were 27th in offense in 21 and 22nd and 22. But that was based on the fact that they had incredible offensive rebounders. Um, and their entire offense was based on offensive rebounding and getting and all and that they were 216th in effective field goal percentage in 21, 192nd in 22, 33rd in 23. And that's not like when Luke got there, I think like a year or two before that, and they kind of figured it out. But they really started to implement more of it when Caravan came into the picture, and they had the pieces to run their off ball actions more so, and they got to 33rd, 7th, 33rd, and now 59th this year in effective field goal percentage. Just 4 years in a row of top 60 EFGs, um, world renowned actions, and Luke Murray is the guy who kind of helped usher that generation in for UConn basketball. Not only that, he's just like you listen to the way anybody in the sport talks about him. It's just glowing. One of the highest paid assistants in the country, and it's a huge credit to Boston College that they were able to get him. And I thought that if Luke Murray had, if like, I wouldn't have called Luke Murray a bad hire at North Carolina. Like, would it have been a reach to hire a first-time head coach there? Yes, but would I have thought it would work? Yeah. Like so my point is Boston College, pound for pound, won the coaching carousel, in my opinion. And then now like they're actually like building like the names that they're bringing into the portal are like better than the names they've been bringing into the portal over the last 5 years, no doubt in my mind. Like Money Williams is just fun point guard. Like not like a star, I don't think in the ACC, but we know he can score. We know he's got some ability. Ernest Shelton is the most perfect fit transfer I think in the entire country. Like Luke Murray and Joe Gallo are close. Joe Gallo steals actions from Luke all the time, and Ernest was literally running those exact actions that he's going to be running for Boston College. Zach Schmeck, Zach S, the international kid they got is supposed to be really good. Colby Duggan was a guy I loved at Charles at Campbell. He can shoot it. Brandon Benjamin is a really good defender and rebounder. Luke Hunger was obviously really good when he was given the opportunity to be a high usage guy for George Washington this year when Castro was out. So I think there's definitely some room for maybe some untapped stuff out of him, especially with a coach as good as Luke Murray. Their roster isn't done yet, but I don't think there's a team that's risen their stock in the college basketball world more than Boston College since March 1st.
Yeah, so I talked about that Murray hire after it happened, I think on the last episode. And how that is the type of guy that you should take a swing at if you're Boston College, while also noting that if they didn't kick in a couple extra dollars, it's not going to matter. And it was a terrible decision by Murray. Just looking at this roster, I have to guess that it's already more expensive than last year. I mean,
I
this
would
is
also
better
assume that there's
talent
a
than the full roster, even at halfway done.
I would assume there's also a little bit of bring your own NIL with Luke Murray, knowing who his father is. But yeah, my whole thought is um, like I thought that Luke Murray would go to like a really, really high level mid major that has a lot of money and is like going to win their league, or he would find his way to like an A10 or like a high level A10 at some point. I didn't because I thought like the high majors that could win would have better options in terms of proven head coaches, and the high majors that like can't win, it wouldn't be a good move for him. So risk by Luke, home run for Boston College, kick in the money as you said. Um, I think most talented team they've had at this stage in a long time. BC fans liked the talent on the Quinton Post team 2 years ago. I think at this stage, like we didn't like. I think Oligbe and McLaughlin kind of developed a little bit during that season. Jaden Zachary coming into the year was not very good. He was very good that year. And then Claudel Harris was a guy that I did not think was going to be anything, and he actually turned into a decent player for them. So I would say at this point in time, this year, his roster is better than that one.
Do we feel like there's a need for another starter here? I mean, I'm guessing it ends up being Williams and Shelton in the backcourt. You have two different forwards you can stick next to Hunger, who I imagine has to be the starting center. Do they maybe still need to go get one more high level wing, or are we thinking it's just going to be bench pieces from here on out?
I
And
mean,
they
I
have
think
no
Zach
depth, so they can go get anybody at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think Zach and Duggan are good enough wings, and Benjamin's a good enough. Like they have six guys right now that you could say are starters. I think. Like, and I think they'll have minutes with Benjamin at the five. But I do want them to get like one more five because Hunger's good, but he's like he's good, but he's like decent A10 team
He's not a
good right
30
now.
minute ACC big guy. He's like a
No,
20,
exactly.
it's like a 22 to 24
22,
minute
yeah.
guy.
Yeah, but let's be completely clear here. I mean, obviously Quentin Post is an NBA player, but they didn't do anything with him. Like Luke Hunger's a perfectly fine starting five man on like a 70th Ken Palm team in year one of a coach.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Hunger's more skilled than Bowden Kapke, who was
Yeah, I
Boston
think I
College's
think
best player last year on a god awful
oh
team.
he was
But
not Boston College's best player. Actually,
yeah, I
who
get
was
no.
Boston
Fred
College's
Payne
best?
was. Fred Payne was,
Yeah, Fred Payne
and
was.
then Kapke
Just
was
like
second. But
yeah, but like weird take. Like I actually half like Bowden Kapke at Nebraska.
oh, he's a good player. He just shouldn't be the best player on a power
I mean,
conference team.
he can't play any defense.
Yeah.
Like he cannot play any defense.
It's the same thing as with Hunger. If he's like your worst starter or your best bench piece, I'm perfectly fine with him on an NCAA tournament team.
Yeah, I mean, he was a decent piece on a decent Northwestern team.
And Hunger, you and I both watched him a lot more than probably a fair most of the people listening to this show, but an unbelievable like physical back to the basket scorer whose numbers just don't look that good for a mid-major because he somehow ended up backing up probably the best pure old school big man at the mid-major level
Yeah, I mean,
last year. And so
the best player in the A10 was in front of him.
yeah.
Like Luke Hunger, for all we know, could have been like the eighth best player in the Big Ten in the A10.
So mine, we had talked about this a little bit before. I think you had guessed at one point that Miami would be my winner, and that was my original thought as well. And just a great job to keep Shelton Henderson out of the draft. They've basically just replaced the three outgoing senior starters with guys who are the same exact archetype of player in Caden Lewis from Villanova, the new point guard, the front court of Deshaun Goody from Robert Morris and Santos Real from Georgia. But I realized today my winner running away is the Duke Blue Devils. And it's a combination of what they've done so far this offseason. They got that high scoring wing that they just missed on last year when Cedric Coward decided to stay in the draft, getting John Blackwell from Wisconsin's guy who is going to probably be the Blue Devils' best player next year. But it's just the fact that we
I
have
wouldn't
now
call him a wing. I think he's more of a guard.
I consider like twos and threes to be wings in this from this perspective.
I don't think I think he's more on ball than a wing.
Okay.
And that's my thing with them. Like my one question about Duke is this so there's only one ball team? Because there's a lot of guards here. And like a really, really good, like a lot of really, really good guards, and I think they can figure it out. It's just that there's a lot of like guards. Keep going. And Pat Gongba is to me this team's best player.
So
He is the best defender in the ACC right now.
that's the biggest piece. I marked him down as just being gone because he was a projected first round NBA draft pick. I figured his time at Duke was up. He was going to go to the draft, and he shockingly, at least to me, ends up announcing his return. He was clearly Duke's second best player last year. His inability to stay out of foul trouble in a couple of key games late in the season, along with the health issues that hit him in February, I think was really Duke's single biggest problem why they sputtered a little bit down the stretch. But I went through this whole offseason, and as you watch the ACC, even teams with money just absolutely get gutted by portal losses year in and year out. In Duke, you look at Caden Boozer, Dame Sarr, Caleb Foster, and I never thought for a second those guys would be in the portal. It's just a conversation of are you going back to Duke or are you going to the NBA? And they have reached this rare state that almost no other program, save for maybe UConn, is at in this day and age where if you're a starting player on Duke and you are not going to the NBA, it would just truly be insane to see that player in the portal.
Yeah. And like let's also add to this. Right now, like if they were to start, and I don't know what's going to happen with Isaiah Evans. Like that's like the one piece that we don't know about right now. But like if they go Caden Boozer, Caleb Foster, John Blackwell, Dame Sarr, and Pat Gongba, then their bench is Duran Rippey, who to me is a top three, top five player in this class. Bryson Howard, Cam Williams, Drew Sharnowski, and one other freshman that's slipping my mind.
The Williams, the
I
forward.
said I said I said Williams.
Oh, I th
Williams, Bryson Howard. Oh,
Sebastian Wilkins being back.
Sebastian
Yeah.
Wilkins. Yeah, who redshirted this year. So like that is a legit 10 that you have right now. And if Isaiah Evans comes back, it's 11. I'm not expecting him back. And I honestly don't think that he should come back at this point. Like it would probably benefit him to go somewhere else if he's going to stay in college at this rate.
It feels like NBA time for Isaiah Evans.
Yeah, it should. I think it is.
I don't really know how he improves his stock next year. He's a probably borderline top 20 pick.
Yeah,
I
it's
would
just
think
like,
it's time to go.
yeah, I mean, like maybe he goes somewhere where he can play a little on the ball and he goes for 20 and 5 and like blows up. But like, what are the odds of that? If you think he has that in him, no, because if he had it in him, he would have played with the ball a little more this year. Duke needed a little more of that.
No, he's a perfect role guy. That's why he's going to be so good in the NBA is just like a movement shooter who can create a little bit on his own when he needs to. But
And he's got size, 6'6" as a two
oh
guard.
yeah, um, just give us a little, just a real quick on Sarnowski, uh, coming in from Belmont. Just a big center. He's going to slot in his Gungba's backup. There's been a lot of Malik Brown comparisons. Is that crazy or is that actually justified?
Malik Brown was like had the greatest micro skill combination of all time. Like his
Yeah.
ability to like deflect passes. Like he would like knock the ball up when it was in your hands. the rebound tip outs. Like he had I genuinely believe this when I say it. I think Malik Brown is the greatest micro skill player of the last 15 years in college basketball. Um, that's like Drew Sharnowski's really good. He is like he doesn't do those things like Malik Brown did. Drew Sharnowski is like in the 1980s he would be like an unbelievable power forward. Like that's what he is, a power forward. Except in today's game, the power forward is actually a five. Um, he is almost all of his stuff is around the rim. It's 70% at the rim. It's 46 dunks this year. It's really good defense on the ball in terms of the post. It's really good defense. Actually, maybe not really good like straight guarding the bigger fives, but really, really good in terms of kind of roaming around the paint, figuring that out, can move a little bit on the like can move just a little bit, like maybe not guard on the perimeter a ton, but can definitely guard around the like 18 feet area, switches just a little bit, probably 3 through 5 in certain spots. And I thought he was the most impactful player in the Missouri Valley just simply because of how good he was defensively. And he could guard some guards in that league. I don't know if he's guarding ACC guards the way he guarded Missouri Valley guards, but I think he can really, really impact the game for Duke at a level, whether it's his shot blocking, his kind of secondary defensive stuff, the ability to read plays, and he's got some good instincts on the offensive side of the ball too, and just the ability to put the ball in the basket from the low post. I think is really, really good. Great passer, great
Well,
passer.
so that was the one thing I wanted to throw in there at the end is again, Duke is just going to be able to play make from their front court for the third straight
Great,
year.
like really good short roll guy. That too. Like it's like all of his stuff is around the rim in terms of his scoring, but like you get him to 12 feet with the basketball, and if you bring your man up on him, he can find the other guy.
So as we just kind of glance around this league here, and I have one or two specific teams I do want to cover later, but just you as a well, I'm going to call you a mid-major guy, but you know every team in this great sport. But just a couple of players coming into the ACC that maybe aren't getting the proper attention so far that you look at this guy and just say either that's a home run pickup that people don't realize is going to be quite good, or someone who may be a complete whiff, but you are wildly intrigued by.
Um, I mean, I would say I think Dylan Faulkner is a perfect fit at Clemson. Like post up big man, got some skill. Like not the most athletic guy, but can make plays, smart. Like just kind of the type of big man that they've won with. So I like that a lot. I think Sebastian Rancic is like the ultimate Florida State guy, just like this glue four that has ridiculous length. Just will it'll feel like watching him feels like watching Colorado last year with him and Bangot Dak in the front court. It felt like you were watching an old Florida State team. So I got a little bit of shooting to him. He's not like this shot blocking four man. It's more of like perimeter four man, but that's kind of what Florida State had, like these 6'11" perimeter dudes. So like I think it's fine, and especially with Marcus Ponder, who's just this specimen at the five. I think they need another five, like they probably do.
They did
But
last year and they never found one. So
yeah, so I think they're going to need that. And then I would say, I mean, I just think Preston Edmead's a baller. Like I I know he's small. I know he doesn't really guard, but like that guy is just a baller. And Christian Hammond's really good too. Like NC State has three really good players. They just don't have any other basketball players on their roster right now.
Yeah, I was looking
And
around
like
trying to figure that one out, and
and I
I
would
thought I
also
was
say
missing
like
guys.
I'm totally fine with like the idea of hey, if your guards aren't going to guard, like Kyle Evans is, if you just want to play that UC Irvine drop, like go ahead, yeah, funnel everything to Kyle Evans, and it's just that you're not UC Irvine, you're not, you don't have Russ Turner, so who knows? I also I like Braden Smith at going to Notre Dame.
I really
I
like
think
the
it's
Notre Dame class. Some really fun swings among those three.
Yeah, like I I think they kind of wore out their welcome with Burton and Shrewsbury as the backcourt. It was like they clearly weren't going anywhere with it. So why not just get like a really electric playmaker type guard that can operate out of ball screens, can score when he needs to, but is more of a just playmaker type, and then have your two scoring guards be Ethan Roberts and Braden Shrewsbury, which I think is a really interesting combo. I don't think there's enough athleticism on this roster.
Never will
Like
be.
like Jalen Harrelson gave them that. Sir Muhammad had a little bit of that. They don't have either of those guys. Like Serta and Frost obviously had shooting. I think there's plenty of shooting when it comes to Roberts and Shrewsbury. Kohler can shoot it. But there's not going to be enough athleticism. This team won't guard anybody.
So just taking it back to the beginning there, because you mentioned Clemson with Faulkner, and they're one of the slower moving teams here. Looks like they're going to bring back Foster and Buckner. Wellings announced he's coming back, but with the timing of his ACL injury, God knows if he'll even play this year. Um, but uh, but one of the big things just being them picking up Cole Serta because they were so desperately lacking in shooting last year, and that's a huge one. Yeah, so I mean, Serta, who was so good to end last season, I just think that's going to be a really fun fit at Clemson. Notre Dame, it's a big jump for all three. I mean, Braden Smith played a little bit at Gonzaga. He was obviously most successful at Colgate. Roberts comes up from Penn. Logan Duncombe, I watched him a couple times at Winthrop. He was a dominant player at that level. There was just no one to match his size, even when they were playing high point. Not going to have that kind of advantage. He'll be slight at the ACC level, but it's a fun, very talented group coming in. So, one of the teams that neither of us have mentioned in this pocket of excitement, though, is North Carolina. And I think we both have different reasons for this. So, for anyone listening on the audio, you're making a like ate too much candy at Halloween face. Go into your part because I don't even think we have the same reason for being down on this team, although there's some crossover.
Like there's one shooter in this five, like, and it's Matt Abel, who
It's so
was not
funny that
even the
he's
best,
going there, but carry
who was
on.
like not even the best shooter on his team last year, which is more of a Paul McNeil thing than a Matt Abel thing. But like there, we don't know. I just I like the Maxime Logad as like a backup big man, but like I don't know if Maximo Adams is ready. Isaiah Dennis was nothing this year. They chose Terrence Brown over Dylan Mingo, which I don't like. I just don't think Terrence Brown is a rim pressure guard. He's a rim pressure guard that doesn't play any defense. And I guess the idea is like Mingo's hurt, so like maybe he won't play, whatever. Like I'm just not a huge Terrence Brown guy, and at the blue blood level, like Terrence Brown would have been a really solid pickup for Pitt. He would have been a really solid pickup for Florida State. He would have been a really solid pickup for Clemson, for like a borderline tournament team like Clemson. But for North Carolina, where your expectations are to be a top five team, and like you fire like they North Carolina fired Hubert Davis for they which for their program standards, correct decision to do for 16-43, 9-31, 32 in Ken Palm. Are you getting that much? Like, is this roster that much better than 32 in Ken Palm, which would have been like
It might be
23 in
worse.
Ken Palm if Caleb Wilson? I just did a top 25. I had them 23, and I'm just like, That's probably what they were before Caleb Wilson got hurt last year.
I think they were better than that when they had Wilson at full health.
I was like not sold on them most of the year, but most of that was because of Hubert.
Yeah.
So like I I just think that this roster to me is obviously incomplete. They need more guys, and we'll have to see who they get. Um, and I think Abdalas could be a like Abdalas could like have a huge year with Malone, like in an NBA style offense, because we know he's like an NBA style guy, big handles, can shoot it a little bit. But like, will he play any defense? Will Terrence Brown play any defense? Will Matt Abel play any defense? Is this just going to be the Henry Visar show? And is Henry Visar even officially coming back? Um, we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Abdallas could be great. That's the perfect sentence. He was also someone who was ranked number 7 nationally on Field of 68's transfer list. That's completely insane. I clicked around a bunch of others. That was his highest, but he was top 40 for everyone. This is a guy who was not playing in crunch time in a couple of Virginia Tech's most important games, trying to make the NCAA tournament last year. And I don't think we'll ever forget the Providence game. It was one of the most thrilling individual performances in the entire sport last year. But that guy was just not an above average ACC starter last year. And the stats will tell you he was, and the tantalizing mixtapes will tell you that he was, and the eye test will tell you that he was more or less an average point guard last season. And for
Will the stats tell you that? He had a 94 offensive rating in conference play. He was a Ken Pom MVP exactly one time
the
in
counting
conference
stats
play.
will tell you that. But
Yeah, because he got the ball a lot.
yeah, like having Neo Avdalas as the 7th best transfer in the country tells me that you didn't watch Virginia Tech last season.
And let's be completely honest, there's nothing wrong with not watching Virginia Tech last season.
They were fun.
Not really. They were fun against Providence.
That was one of the best games of the entire season. But and
Yeah, but like that was the only Virginia Tech game that the national media watched. I watched them like a couple more like I watched them a couple more times in non-con than a couple of their ACC games. And then like I had no reason to watch them after like February 1st.
yeah, and then that was the point where it really went downhill for him, where it just became clear that Ben Hammond was significantly better.
Oh,
And
Ben Hammond was one of my favorite players when he was committed to Rhode Island.
I'm so glad Virginia Tech got him back. That's a roster I want to talk about, but they haven't done anything yet, so that'll have to be for a later episode.
Yeah,
But
I'm trying to think like what do they even have? Like Tyler John like they've got
they kept
a
Hansberry.
talk. Yeah, like they got one guy and it's the attack kid from Oklahoma
Yeah.
who's like whatever. They have any freshmen coming in?
Um, my
No
handy.
one notable. No
Yeah, I
one
don't
notable.
think so.
It just kind of side note, like I hated Gerdak before the year last year. I actually think like that's kind of a sneaky decent fit at Rutgers. Just like obviously he's not Cliff Morey, but like and he's not a terrific defender. It's just like Rutgers just kind of needs a big guy that can rebound.
So that was the other February piece for Virginia Tech is Christian Gerdak is an entirely competent Power Five player.
Yeah.
Antonio Dorn is not, so good luck Wake Forest on that one. But
Yeah.
Christian Gerdak
Wait,
is.
I like Kavere Kennedy a lot. That's one of my I think he's awesome. Surrounding him with Jamari McDowell,
Who
like that's not
was a
that's not
disaster
the
at
that's not
Kansas.
the direction. Jamari McDowell is not the direction I would have gone for. I guess that's your three if Justin Ray is your two. It's just like McDowell is like career 33% outside shooter, and Justin Ray, um, I think the shot is good. That is good with him. It was 41% last year, and a lot of it was on ball stuff too. So that's a good, but he's also like 6'2". Um, I would have wanted to get more shooting next to Kennedy. Um, I just don't think it's a good roster fit. overall right now. I don't think Antonio Gordon's good. The Placide twins better be like stars.
So we'll get to Kennedy in a second. He was the one other individual guy I wanted to cover, but just putting a bow on Carolina because you had all that great Terrence Brown stuff, and for me, I just can't get over one stat, which is top 15 in the nation in usage each of the last two seasons on Ken Palm number 306 Fairleigh Dickinson in 2025 and on 2 and 16 in conference Utah in 2026. Like the guy can clearly do things with the ball in his hand, but he that screams great stats, bad team guy more than anyone I can remember in recent memory.
Yeah.
But Kavere Kennedy, because yet another guy out of the Joey Gallo factory up at Merrimack. All they do is win and produce guys who transfer up, and we have yet to see a Merrimack guy really be a significant piece of a successful Power Five team. So
Can we
could
at
Kennedy
least
be?
like
Can
come
Kennedy be
on?
the guy who breaks
Oh,
it?
okay. I'm gonna say here that Dayton team 2 years ago that Javon Bennett was on that made the NCAA tournament. Like, can we not call that a successful team? Like, I know they weren't Power Five, like they were top 25 in Ken Palm all year.
Well, Javon Bennett literally might have an argument for Dayton's Hall of Fame eventually. He's the
But
one
like,
exception. That's the
but like
only.
that's fine.
That's the problem. It's only
Yeah,
Javon
okay.
Bennett,
That
even if we extend it out to
but
him.
Bud Clark wasn't good this year.
Oh yeah, you're right. So it's two now.
Bud Clark wasn't good this year.
No, I
I
forgot
mean,
about him because that's fresh and Seton Hall really petered out down the stretch, and I kind of
yeah,
forgot he
I
was
mean,
there.
I don't think it was Jordan Minor's fault that that Virginia team wasn't any good. I thought he was one of their better players that year, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Like that was just a Virginia team that sucked. I mean, they won 20 games, but they sucked. Um, and yeah, but I also like Kavere is really good at certain things. Um, what he's not is a shooter. He's not even like a mid-range jump shooter. Like he was like 17% on mid-range pull-ups this year. He is all about getting to the rim and getting to the line. It's very Terrence Brown like in terms of his shot profile. Less, even fewer outside shots though. Um, I think he's a really good passer too. His teammates love him wherever he goes. Like he wins wherever he goes. He won at Father Judge. He won at Merrimack. He was a captain as a sophomore in high school. Um, he's always played really well against guys that should be physically better than him, and now he's like 6'2". It's like I mean he's thin, but now he's 6'2" and he's like got size. Not 6'2", like 6 foot. 6'2" is pushing it, but like 6 foot is probably what he is. So he's not like that undersized right now. Um, and my concern with him is just like, is there enough diversity to his skill set to make this work? But like I said when I said like, oh, I think Terrence Brown would be a good point guard at Pitt. I think Terrence Brown would be a good point guard at Florida State. Like, yeah, Kavere Kennedy is a fine point guard at Wake Forest. If he went to North Carolina, I would say it's a bad fit too.
Any thoughts on today's pickup of Vincent Chudry, who was redshirted last year at George Washington because he was not good enough to crack the back end of their rotation, and is suddenly transferring up to Wake Forest?
Hey, I wonder if he got some of that 15 million George Washington NIL budget from last year. I'm just gonna keep exaggerating the number of the George Washington NIL
So
budget
many
from
people
last
got
year.
paid to not play at George Washington last year. We could do like an hour on that.
And I mean, we'll talk about this on three bid league soon, but I'm loving the slew budget jokes right now.
Well, because they lost oh my God, now I can't even remember his name. We talked about him for like 5 minutes. They lost the center to Duke, where it really
Slew
does
Charnowski, yeah.
Charnowski. It really did seem like it was St. Louis trying to make him a starter versus Duke as a backup when push came to shove there.
Yeah, and we'll talk about we said I'll go on three bid league at some point,
Yeah.
and we'll talk Alan McKaylee. I was trying to get the sell on that. I'm like half in, half out. But yeah, there's that.
But the one team we didn't really talk about. You know what? Let's
Stanford.
see. Well, I
I
got
I
you.
did I did I didn't mention the word Stanford in this entire podcast,
Well, it's all just freshmen and mediocre forwards coming back. Well, they pray to
and I will
God that a
still
Corey
have
decides to not stay in the draft.
them in the top 75.
Yeah, because Kyle Smith's an unbelievable coach.
I would have taken him as the Syracuse coach.
Oh, as you should. Well, so
I
we'll do Syracuse in 1 second because just Pitt leads the country in transfers in. It's not an impressive group. It's a bunch of guys who have failed specifically in the ACC before. But is there just one guy on this roster that's worth 60 seconds of you telling us why we should be excited this year about him?
It's not
Or
really
should we just
60
go to
seconds. It's
Syracuse?
it's more just like I think Sumler is like a solid player, and I think Mighty is a solid player too. I was like kind of a Jonathan Powell guy at one point.
I was too. That
What
stock
I
is
will
gone.
say though, what I will say though, this is the most UCF roster I've ever seen. It is so UCF. It is so many guys that I'm like, I am so sick of you, but like they're not bad enough to the point where like they have to transfer down. Um, so of course this team's gonna end up in the bubble picture all year, and it's gonna bother me all year.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, Baidongo's coming over from Georgia Tech. Jonathan Powell's coming from North Carolina. Jaleel Bethea, who did nothing at Alabama, of course, flamed out at Miami 2 years ago. And then Nathan George comes over because he just can't
Nathan
get enough.
George,
Georgia
Nathan
Tech to
George
Syracuse.
all time like the it was like November and the Syracuse chat in the cheerleading Discord was talking about how he was throwing games.
So this is my only reason for wait. Could Pitt be way better than we think? Which is, did Nathan George get into Syracuse and then JJ Starling just destroyed him? And having to play next to JJ Starling just ruined him for a season. And that guy who almost beat Clemson in that triple overtime game 2 years ago is just going to actually show up this year. I think JJ Starling ruined a lot of people.
JJ Starling, maybe the losingest player. The not losingest as in had the most losses, losingest as in like is a loser in terms of the way that he plays basketball and what he's good at.
The
And
losingest is
then
probably
how
Primo
his
Spears, but
and then it's definitely Primo Spears. Did Primo Spears ever play for a good team?
he finished dead
Like
last in his conference
like
all 4 years at
like
four different schools.
like dating back to third grade, did he ever play for a good team? Primo Spears and Sean Gordon. And Sean Gordon, even in his last year, actually like played for a decent team at Old Dominion.
Primo Spears, I think, was last place at Duquesne, Florida State, Georgetown, and UTSA.
Um, Sean Gordon is another kind of champion of this. He was on that Missouri team that got Conzo Martin fired in 2022 that went 5-13 in the SEC. Then he went to Austin P on the team that got Nate James fired with like a fight in the middle of a season. They went 3-15. And then he was on the Siena team that got Carm fired that went 4-28 and 3-17 in the conference. Then he went to Old Dominion with the first year coach in Mike Jones. And I was like, oh no, is he going to get him fired? And they were 7-5 in conference play, and they lost six in a row. Then they actually made a run in the conference tournament in the stairway to seven. They won three.
So the last piece of this, the biggest reason to get you on today, Syracuse brings in Gary McNamara. For those who do not know enough about your background, you of course are the foremost expert of the MAAC. I almost feel the need to take a moment to pause and clarify that I'm in no way just blowing smoke here. That is your number one claim to fame. And so you have been watching Gary McNamara up close these last 2 years at Siena. He brings over two guys in Gavin Doty and Goodrick.
Kazi. Yeah.
Has a Sadiq White, Kai and Anthony are coming back. They picked up a couple of international freshmen, a few random transfers. This team is ginormous. All 10 guys so far are 6'5" or above. Kai and Anthony's probably the smallest guy on this team at the
Ryan
moment.
Mesh. Ryan Mesh.
Oh, I missed that. Yeah, he's sitting right there on the roster. I didn't see 6 foot, but
Yeah, no,
What
he's real small.
what should we just expect from Syracuse this year before we even get into the player specifics? Like, what is this team going to look like? Is yet another Boeheim disciple going to want to run the Boeheim zone? What's Syracuse basketball look like honestly, these next couple of years under Jerry McNamara?
Yeah, so I think Jerry did a really good job at Siena. Like I I'll kind of get out ahead of this. Like I openly campaigned for guys not named Jerry McNamara to get the head coaching job. I wanted Josh Schertz. I wanted Brian Hodgson. I would have wanted Eric Olin or Kyle Smith, but just simply because those guys were running higher level programs than GMAC was. That's not to say I don't think GMAC is good for the job. I think GMAC having a level of success at Syracuse is better for the program than anyone else having that exact level of success at Syracuse because of who GMAC is, what he means to Syracuse as obviously national champion, legend, Big East tournament run in '06, all that stuff. Um, but he's also just like a community guy. He spent all of his adult life essentially in Syracuse, from the moment he got to campus from Scranton and until essentially the time he left for Siena. He was at Syracuse for all but like 2 years. Um, so he raised his family there. So I think that for GMAC, this is, and for Syracuse, it's a great marriage. Um, Staff wise, Ben Lee, I think as an assistant was his right hand at Siena. Really good evaluator, I think. He's good with that. Really good game scout as well. Ryan Daly from VCU, kind of like a rising name, really young. You talked about him as a player on 3-bid league, and now we're talking about him as an assistant coach on Up the Coast. It's pretty crazy, right?
Quick aside, if anyone wants to dig in, I talked to him for 50, and that's 50 minutes last summer on 3-bid league. So
That's
if you want to learn more about Ryan Daly's career and his journey, I'll
forgot
link
about
it in the
that.
show notes.
No,
It's a
Ryan
great
is
interview. He's a great
he's
conversation.
also just like an all-time like vibes guy.
Oh yeah.
Like very Philly too. Like very Philly. Um, and then Jamal Brunt, good defensive guy from Penn State, disciplined, good evaluator, good recruiter, from what I've heard. Arinze Anuaku is going to handle the bigs, I would assume. He was a big at Syracuse. He understands it. And then they're still trying to figure out the GM. I They're probably not going to have one until a couple months from now at this point, but I would assume they're going to have one for the next portal cycle. Ryan Blackwell is on as like the director of player of like alumni engagement. I'm just like, what on earth is that role? But like Syracuse, if you're going to hire in the family, lean into hiring in the family. Um, and Pete Coruscantini stayed on in like some administrative role. Think it's a good staff. Definitely more aligned in terms of what I think their roles can be and what they can do than the last staff. When I think they kind of hodgepodged it together. Brendan Strawn was like a recruiter type. Alan Griffin supposedly worked with the bigs, um, and so like and Dan Engelstad was, I thought, kind of had to do just like a hodgepodge of different things. And obviously, we don't know the actual roles and responsibilities of this. I'm just kind of speculating based on what we do know. But I think this staff is just kind of a little bit more built for the modern era of basketball than the last one. GMAC, I don't think you're going to see him play the exact same way he played at Siena. They played slow. They played, didn't shoot the three a lot, didn't foul. It was not like a super exciting brand of basketball. It was essentially based on guards that could score, in Justice Shotes and Gavin Doty. You don't have a Justice Shotes point guard at Siena, at Syracuse now. You have Garway Dual as your point guard. And Garway Dual, you do not want him with Justice Shotes usage rates. Um, they did run a lot of stuff for Brandon Coyle, to get some threes, and they would go to post ups with Folafak and with they threw lobs to Mulvey at times and figured stuff out there. And Chandler was in a dunker spot. They, I think GMAC, the one thing about him that I think we're going to see is he's going to find the best way to play for with his players. Um, whether that is bringing back a little bit of zone for this team, maybe we see it a little bit. Like the length on this roster is a very zone roster. Like Aiden Tobiason's got a 7'1" wingspan. And like if you play Dual, Doty at the top of the zone, like with Tobiason and Sadiq White and Sibby or Luke Wilson, like that's actually like a potentially effective zone. It's just that I would rather have Garway Dual guarding the ball. I don't want to neuter your best aspect, and I just don't think playing zone is a tenable thing for that long. But I said this I've been saying this for 3 years. Like mix in a zone, like mix in a 1-3-1, mix in like a 2-2-1 zone press. Like, and I think the Syracuse team has all of the elements to be able to mix in different defenses, be able to mix in different things, that you can throw out different pick and roll coverages. I think you have versatility on this roster. And I think that's something that he did not have like a lick of at Siena. Um, he built an extremely rigid roster roles wise, in terms of what he needed out of certain guys, and that won at the mid-major level. But I think that him playing into that, and then him and this staff now playing into something that is much less rigid, um, is going to be an interesting test for him in year one. I think a lot of Syracuse fans are disappointed in the lack of like a true star acquisition, and I can sympathize with the idea of that. I certainly think that it would be nice to for Syracuse to go out there and say, "Hey, we got like I we got I don't know, name a player in the portal that you would consider like a star."
Juke Harris.
Yeah, like okay, we got Juke Harris, top 10 player in the portal, or we got Cruz Davis, top 30 player in the portal, or we got I don't know, someone else like maybe a high level big. Think who's like high major, really
Well,
good
we
big.
said it earlier, like Fulgaris.
Yeah, like a Fulgaris. I guess that's not. I wouldn't say star for him.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean he hit
or it's like, oh, we
maybe the second biggest shot of the tournament and was playing on Iowa. So
yeah,
I think
but
people would
different,
delude
different.
themselves into saying he's a star.
Yeah, he's really good. But he's like, or like, oh, we got like a JP Estrella. Like, it's not like who you're getting at Syracuse, but I also think Gavin Doty can be like, I think Gavin Doty can be all ACC. He was the type of player at Siena that just screams gamer to me. Gets to his spots, hits tough shots, finishes with whatever he needs to do, like tough as nails, throws his body around, uh, like doesn't turn it over ever. He can be all ACC. Aiden Tobiason, like I'm not sure if he can be all like the ceiling is there, the tools are there, the physicality and the physical tools are there, the wingspan, the ability to kind of rise and fire for jump shots. Became a 3 level scorer this year. The tools are there. I'm got to put it together. But yeah, I Syracuse is going to rely on those two a lot for scoring, and they're going to have to rely a lot on Sibby and Wilson for rim protection. But I do think they're going to have that rim protection from him and from Sibby and Wilson and from Sadiq White. And I think you can get some secondary stuff from Tobiason with his wingspan too. And I think that Garway Dual guarding the ball is a really, really good solution for Syracuse team that in the past we've seen that has not had very good guard defense. I think that's going to change with him. And I just think that like if you get anything, it's like you got to get something scoring wise out of Kai and Anthony this year, and I think they will. I think he's going to develop a little bit, but like I'd like to see one more piece, like a front court guy that can maybe put the ball in the basket a little bit. Like obviously not like a Tyler Betsy because he's obviously gone, but like somebody of the ilk of like maybe a little bit bigger than Betsy, but can kind of can shoot it like at least a little bit, and maybe put the ball on the floor a little bit, maybe has a little bit of a post game. Obviously, that's a little bit hard to find right now. Just kind of somebody, there's like somebody with a pulse that knows what basket looks like. Because that front court right now is full of guys that don't take a ton of shots from anywhere besides the rim, which is not great for roster diversity. That would be my one major complaint, aside from not having like a true starting point guard. Obviously, Duval is probably going to be your point guard, and it's not ideal offensively. probably playing 4-on-5 for the most part offensively. And Sadiq White hasn't proven a ton offensively either. So like this offense is going to be very reliant on the wings, Doty, Tobias, and Kyan Anthony and Mark Morano, who's the Slovenian they got off the bench, or they got who can really score. Don't know what else he can do. Um, like, and I also don't know if like he's quite athletic enough right now. Like I watched some of the film and I wasn't super high on him. But they're going to need that scoring from those four. They're going to need something from. They're going to need a step forward from Sadiq White in the scoring department. Um, and I think they're going to need another scoring four man at some rate. But I like the makeup of this roster. I think it's tough. I think you've got tough guys on this roster for the most part. Duval, Doty, Sadiq White, like Luke Wilson. Like those guys are tough. Ryan Mesh, like um, people aren't giving him enough credit for like how good he is at basketball. I think because he was committed to Siena, and I think it's kind of the same with Doty. Like they're not giving enough credit because they were Siena guys. Ryan Mesh like went toe to toe with Duran Rippey in December and like beat him. Um, like all of the evaluators that watched um, Cushing and Middlesex Magic play like thought that this guy was awesome. It's just like politics kept them ranked pretty low. I think for the most part of like him not having like the big offers, it's just like they were thinking he's a little small. Yeah, he's small. That's what he is. I think he can play as a backup point guard right now in the ACC. It's just that Syracuse's starting point guard is a guy that can't do much offensively, but is just going to have to be one of the best defenders in the conference, which I think he can be. Um, yeah, I mean that's just a lot of long-winded thoughts on Syracuse right now. Do you have anything?
I mean, it's a very accomplished group, not at the highest of levels, but you talk about the defense and those two critical positions. Duval was all conference defense in the Southland. Luke Wilson was the defensive player of the year in the Sun Belt as just a rim protecting center. Doty was a unanimous pick for first team all conference down in the Metro. And funny enough, the three guys from that first team who all still have eligibility, Doty going to Syracuse, Kavere Kennedy going to Wake Forest, and Shelton going to Boston College, all of whom we've
Yeah, and
talked
then
about, which was not on purpose today. I didn't even
and
think to
Brandon
ask you about all
Benjamin
of
was on
them.
the second team, and then Brandon Benjamin was on the second team.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. Yep.
We have had, I think, five players from the conference commit to high majors, and four of them are ACC, and the other is Luke McKeldin going to Northwestern to be probably their starting big man, which is a little crazy to me. Let me make sure I have this right. Have we had anyone commit to like Big East or? Oh no,
Well,
We had Will Sidnor to Rutgers. Depending on what you think about the Pac-12, we had Fraser Roxborough to Washington State, and
in Menard to
um,
Colorado State, because I
yeah,
was
and Menard
watching
to
that for
Colorado State.
various reasons.
Oh yeah, because Fordham was in on
Yep.
him.
Um,
Yeah,
wait,
I think Fordham had Amir Lindsey on campus the other day. So
no one will. Most of the listeners of this won't remember the name except for Pitt fans who just got absolutely nuked by him in November. Is Jaden Zimmerman staying at Quinnipiac?
Grand Canyon.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's not fun.
Yeah, I'll explain later.
I can figure out about half of the equation, but and that's a nice check. But yeah, I mean, this Syracuse team to me feels like a group that is certainly not going to waltz their way into an NCAA tournament in year one, which also when you bring in a young coach, I don't really care if you're great in year one as long as you're solid and start to build the foundation. But if Doty can take that big leap and be 80% of what he was in the Metro at the ACC level, then I think this is at least a bubble team, and at the very least, this is going to be a talented team and a hell of a lot more fun than those Red Autry teams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a tournament team. Like, I'm gonna come out and say that. Like, but they were 87th in Ken Palm last year. There's a lot of room to grow without being a tournament team.
Yeah, and just getting the fans re-engaged is probably the most important part this year. Because that,
Like,
that building's
like
been desolate the last couple of years.
you have to make it look like there's something to come for in February. And like, I'm gonna go back because like my background in college basketball, I grew up a diehard UConn fan, and I remember Dan Hurley's first couple years at UConn in the American. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody gave a shit about coming to watch UConn play Temple, coming to watch UConn play Tulsa. Um, but like, and then year one, it's like you couldn't really do a ton of like roster like construction type stuff because like you had no, you didn't have the portal the way it was. You transferred to sit out a year. But by the end of year two, like the team was really good at the end of that season. And like people were coming to the games, people were engaged, they were excited, and there was a buzz. And then obviously, then they move back to the Big East, and there's another buzz. And then they make the tournament, they make the tournament again, and then they win the national champ. Like, I'm not saying you have to build like that, but I'm saying it's like if you give people something to cheer for by the end of year one, and I think at this point it's by the end of year one. Back then, because you couldn't take transfers, it was by the end of year two. If you can give them something to cheer for, something to be excited about heading into year two, by the end of year one, which I think this team will do. Now, will they look like a tournament team? Probably not. But like, what like I was really high on Florida State last year. I had them in like the 60s. Everyone else thought they were terrible. Like, if Syracuse this year does what Florida State did this past season, where they were like really not great early in the season, but they started to win games and they started to look really good late in the year with a first year coach, have some proof of concept heading into year two. I think with Syracuse's like just institutional brand and what it is, and GMAC being who he is, the money would start to flow in.
Carmelo and Boeheim wandering around the sidelines still.
That is certainly that is one thing I will say. I that is part of the reason why I would have rathered them hire someone like a Schertz or a Hodgson or Olin. Um, like I think those three guys are a little more proven. I would say a lot more proven at a higher level than GMAC as a head coach. But also, it's like you kind of can move off of the last era of Syracuse basketball and like kind of build a new thing. But I think that in terms of engaging the fan base right now, GMAC does that at such a high level because of what he is and his connections to the past of Syracuse. And I mean, the Mello situation is just like he like it was a non-story because they were losing. Like, sorry, it was a story because they were losing. Like,
And Kyan never
nobody
made any sense on that team last year.
posted about Bryce James sitting out when Arizona was winning.
Putting Kyan next to Nate George and JJ Starling just didn't make any sense. So
Yeah, I
he
mean,
was
obviously,
never really going to
it's
be able to
very
play last year anyway.
it's very disrespectful to compare Cayenne to Bryce James, but there's four college basketball players the average person has heard of. It's like Cayenne Anthony, Cam Boozer, Caden Boozer, and Bryce James. So like that's why it's like that's why I'm just saying his name in that sentence. It's like obviously he's a significantly better player than Bryce, but like the idea is like th- that him not playing only became a story because they were losing.
I thought Bryce James was still in high school until the week of the Final Four, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, he's
For
he's never going to play a meaningful minute for Arizona.
I
He
mean,
would never play. He would never play a meaningful minute at Duquesne.
yeah, he's just not that good. But for Syracuse, it really is just a perfect metaphor that this is the just don't dribble the ball off your foot season. Just just make it through the year without a horrific turnover, and things will be looking a lot better in 12 months for the Orange. But anyone else that we have missed in this hour here that you just feel like you need to get a thought off your chest in this conference about? We
Let me
covered
take a look if
most.
I have anything.
If we want to hit like a Cal getting Noyes Indra-situs, but
Um,
we've got most of it by
Jake
now.
Wilkins is a highlight reel.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. He dunks like his
Simitri
dad.
Simitri Carr just went in the portal. By the
Yep.
way, like Dominique Wilkins' son and Carmelo Anthony's son being in the same conference at the same time is like
And
let
Carlos
let's
Boozer's son.
Well, I mean that like Boozer's son and Melo's son like makes sense,
Yeah.
but like
Oh, no, I get what you're saying
Melo
because
Melo
Dominique's kid
Melo
shouldn't
wasn't
be in college at this still.
Melo wasn't born when Dominique was drafted, right?
I would imagine not, but
1982 NBA draft. Carmelo
yeah, so
Anthony.
Melo would have been born in 84 probably because they won what, the
Yeah,
2003
84.
title?
Melo was 2 years away from being born when Dominique was drafted. And Jake Wilkins is the same age as Cayenne. And then you've got I feel like there's someone else in this conference that has like some NBA related, obviously the Boozers, but Hakeem Olajuwon's kid.
Coming to
Like again,
Stanford.
another guy who is like 20 years older than Carmelo.
I just want to wrap it up here then that in the 3 years of Mark Madsen, Cal has gone from Stojakovic to Marbury and Pippen to now
Oh,
Wilkins.
Marbury. Forgot about Marbury. He grew up like 5 minutes from me. I played against him growing up.
I think he's gone finally, but I feel like we've gotten enough here for roster construction season. Sam Federman, where can all the good people find you? Because you are continuing to work through this. We sleep in May, just like John Rothstein.
Oh man. I and like that is so true because like my semester ends and then like my internship ends and like the last day of that is May 1st. So like we will be sleeping the entire month of May. But Sam Federman, Sam underscore Federman on Twitter, Brackets, Bubbles, and Bit Stealers, wherever you get your podcasts, noonsmagician.com. I'll have some Syracuse content going up. I just talked to Adam Fisher today. I'm talking to Dustin Kearns tomorrow, getting some exclusive quotes on Syracuse's transfers. While I sleep during the month of May, I will have film reviews for all of the Syracuse transfers as well. Midmajormadness.com if you want to see the MAC side of things. Also doing some national mid-major stuff. I talked to Eric Olin last week for a story about New Mexico, so got some national mid-major stuff that I'm working in the slate right now because of the off-season cycle, but mostly Mac stuff. Yeah, and Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers will have plenty of stuff there. Me and Jonathan Lidskin. Basketunderreview.com as well. I've got one off-season piece that I'm cooking up for them right now. And I've got a couple that I'm cooking up for Mid-Major Madness. So got to get back to that.
Yeah, it's a lot, but if anyone's looking for Sam, you are not going to lack for available content. I think you guys have already done at least three off-season episodes of the
We
BBB
have
pod,
done
so
two plus the NBA playoff preview that I didn't go on,
okay.
which, by the
So
way,
still three.
is absolutely worth a listen. It's hilarious. Of
All right, everyone go give that a listen. Sam, thank you for joining me.
course.
And that does it for this episode. Roster construction season rages on. We'll be back here probably 2 weeks, maybe three, hopefully with another great guest. So stick around for that.